Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, February 12th, 2021. I am Dave Biddle. I am very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker for his usual Friday visit. J-Book, a lot to get into. Let's start with Al Washington staying at Ohio State. I mean, man, Tennessee, they were trying to make him offers he couldn't refuse, but he refused them. And we couldn't be happier about it. We're getting Al to stick around, and he's going to have a bigger role and a lot more money. I like it.
Yeah, it was kind of touch and go there for a little bit this week. At one point, it looked like Al may have been headed there to Tennessee. Then Ohio State came back, made their counter offer. Tennessee upped the ante a little bit. And at one point, a lot of people was like, it's done. He's headed to Tennessee. Then a couple hours later, Ohio State comes back off the top ropes and pretty much sealed the deal there. So to me, as Urban Meyer would say about past coaches, it's a huge thing when you have other schools coming after your assistant coaches. That means you're doing a heck of a job when it comes to recruiting staff and hiring staff members who a lot of schools are looking to bring onto their program. And Al Washington, he's a tremendous recruiter for Ohio State. He's a young up-and-coming coach. It speaks volumes that a major Power 5 conference is willing to give him a defensive coordinator job whenever, considering he's never called a defense. But for the most part, though, I'm just very happy that he's going to be back with the program, keeping that tremendous linebacker class that he has coming in together, because that was the question for a lot of people. If he was to take that Tennessee job, what happens to all of the recruits that he's landed? So thank goodness we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as you said, Al is a rising star in this profession. What's his future? I mean, obviously he's going to be a defensive coordinator before long. He could be a defensive coordinator right now if he wanted to be at Tennessee. We're looking at a future head coach, aren't we?
I think so. I mean, you would think the next progression for him would be somewhat of a Marcus Freeman, because Marcus Freeman was a guy that started off as a linebacker coach, really excelled at that, was a heck of a young, vibrant recruiter, latched on to Luke Fickle's staff, and called defense, excelled there. And Marcus Freeman's on that track to be a potential head coach. You know, it got into bidding wars for him. I think with Ohio State giving Al Washington more responsibility, the fact that he can already be a defensive coordinator, I think it's just a matter of time. I don't know, what his long-term aspirations are. I would say, obviously, coaching, getting the reins to a defense would be step one. And after that will be a head coaching position. I don't know how much longer Ohio State's going to be able to keep a hold of him without him being further progressed into actually calling the defense or splitting the duties. But for now, Ohio State fans appreciate him because he's back with the program. The interworkings of the deal that Ohio State presented to him is not clear on what Ohio State offered. I know it's been out there that Tennessee was offering 1.5 out the gates, and you have to think that they were pushing that even higher, plus incentives if they came back and counter offer Ohio State. I know a lot of rumors on the Tennessee message board was that his dad was encouraging him to at least listen. He was doing himself an injustice if he didn't at least take the meeting and see what other programs had to offer. So I think Ohio State is in a great position to really develop his career. The question is going to be, will he want to stay in this role, or will he want to take over an entire defense? That's to be determined.
And Ryan Day has added a couple of analysts to his staff. It's something he didn't do his first couple years at Ohio State. It's something that is a big trend in college football. Nobody does it better and more robust than Nick Saban. And now Ryan Day has added a couple of analysts to his staff, a couple of guys, with big names. Paul Rhoads, defensive analyst. Todd Fitch, offensive analyst. Let's start with Paul Rhoads, longtime head coach at Iowa State, long time. I think he was there for like 7 years, 8 years. He was a defensive coordinator at Pitt for many years under Dave Wannstedt. Unfortunately, he was the defensive coordinator at Arizona this past season. I think Arizona State just scored on them again in your home state there, J-Book, but I don't put that on Paul Rhoads, though. For a defensive analyst, again, we'll get to Todd Fitch in a minute. For a defensive analyst, not even a position coach, I don't think you could do much better than Paul Rhoads. I'm pretty fired up about that hiring.
Yeah, he's a veteran guy. He's been around the block. You have to respect someone who is able to secure head coaching jobs and has been in the game this long. And as you mentioned, he's going into an analyst role. It's not like he's going to be actually calling the defense here. So I'm very excited about this as well. I think it's a trend in college football. Everyone sees what Alabama is doing. Alabama probably has about 5, 6, 7 analysts for each side of the football, but just getting a veteran guy, another football mind in there to help carry Combs, I'm all for it at this point in time, because Ryan Day has shown that he's doubling down on his internal coaching staff. You want to have those guys succeed as much as possible. Give them as many opinions as possible, because the one thing that Ryan Day did say in his press conference is he didn't want to bring in someone outside to have kind of a different voice. He wanted to keep things moving in the same direction as far as the defense. And if that's the case, what you saw last year was not Ohio State football when it comes to the pass defense. So if you feel that it was an anomaly and you think that bringing in a defensive analyst is going to help them, I'm all for it.
Yeah, let's get to Todd Fitch. He was the offensive coordinator most recently at Vanderbilt. Again, now I don't think Ohio State's offense needs that much tinkering. The defense does, but I still like this, man. I like that Ryan Day is getting out of his comfort zone a little bit and hiring these analysts. And I know our Patrick Murphy, speaking of Paul Rhoads, Patrick Murphy has learned, and this surprised me, that Paul Rhoads will be making as much money as some of the assistants on Ohio State staff, at least last year. Now, some of those assistants might be getting raises, like guys like Matt Barnes, but it sounds like Paul Rhoads is not going to be making like $50,000 to be an analyst. Sounds like he's going to be making more like $300,000. So I really like that. And then Todd Fitch, I don't know what his salary is going to be, but another guy with good chops. And I like that Ryan Day has changed his philosophy here and is bringing in some extra eyes and some extra brains.
Yeah, and this kind of probably puts to bed the old rumor from fans on the message board that Gene Smith and Ohio State is cheap when it comes to paying their assistant coaches. And I know a lot of people have said that's not the case. Money is not an issue when it comes to Ohio State. So just being able to pay those guys that type of money to not even be an on-the-field coach tells you the commitment from the program in the university to try to surround themselves with the best possible coaches. And just bringing in an offensive analyst is just another voice to help those guys out, breaking down game film, helping prepare for the next opponent. Like you said, Ohio State's offense, it's a well-oiled machine right now. When you have Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson, those two minds alone calling the offense, it's going to be in pretty good hands. But just bringing in someone else who's going to be able to assist those guys. Like I said, Alabama's doing it. Ohio State's just now getting their feet wet with one on each side of the football, where those guys, they're bringing in, 5, 6 guys on each side of the football, former head coaches and coordinators. So if Alabama and Nick Saban is showing you the successful blueprint, you will be foolish not to at least, dip your toes in the water to see how well you can do.
And then switching gears, looking at recruiting, the NCAA, as you know, J-Book, is considering extending the dead period in recruiting, which could greatly affect the situation with JT Tuimoloau. What's your thoughts on that situation?
It's unfortunate. I tell you that, Dave. And you hate to see what's going on when it comes to these these recruits, because kids all across America they're having to make one of the biggest decisions they've ever made in their life without stepping foot on a lot of these campuses. It's great that you can do Zoom calls and meet with these recruits, but until you actually get a feel for the campus and the lifestyle of it, it's hard to say if that's going to be a good fit for you. And I know JT was talking about visiting Ohio State in April. Right now, things are so up in the air that it's hard to say which way that recruitment is going to go now. Alabama right now is just kind of picking and choosing. They have, 27, 28 guys. They're supposed to be landing in another transfer, the linebacker from Tennessee, and they supposedly have room for JT. So that's going to put them, pushing almost 30 guys in this upcoming class. I don't know how mathematically it's possible for them, but to me, he's going to have to end up making a decision without visiting campus unless he decides to visit schools on his own dime, like a lot of kids in his class have done. It's sad because I don't think the NCAA is taking into consideration how this really affects the kids. You have a governing body there with the NCAA that's filled with athletic directors and conference CEOs, and they only have a few kids, one or two kids who are actual athletes that are on those committees to say, hey, you guys should probably at least move this to a quiet period instead of extending the dead period, so at least you can get kids on campus. I mean, what you're going to see in the next 1 to 2, 3 years, you're going to see thousands and thousands of kids entering the transfer portal. You're already seeing it now. You're seeing almost 1,700 kids in college football alone who has entered the transfer portal. And now you're going to tell these kids to go make a decision to spend the next 3 to 5 years at a university that you may not even know that you actually want to be there, because we, the NCAA, would not allow you to visit there. And to me, it's a shame. I feel bad for these kids. But at the end of the day, JT's going to have to make a decision one way or the other, because the way things are trending with the NCAA, he's not going to be able to get on campus anywhere until fall camp starts up. And he's setting himself up to be way behind his other peers, regardless of what school he decides, if it's Ohio State or Alabama. He's going to be severely behind if he's just now making his choice come June, July, and fall camp is get ready to start up at the end of July or early August.
Great insights, as always, from Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, Jay Book. Thank you to all the listeners out there for tuning in. We appreciate that very much. Have a great day and a great weekend, Bucknutters.